That's right. We're finally talking about Sonic 06. Sonic 06 was a 2006 platform game developed by Sonic Teams and published by Sega. It was produced in commemoration. I know how to spell, I swear, of the Sonic series' 15th anniversary, and as a reboot for the 7th generation video game consoles. Players control Sonic, Shadow, and the new character Silver, who battled Solaris, an ancient evil pursued by Dr. Eggman. Each playable character has his own campaign and abilities, and must complete levels, explore hub worlds, and fight bosses to advance the story. In multiplayer modes, players can work cooperatively to collect Chaos Emeralds or race to the end of a level. Development for the game began in 2004, and that's what we're going to be talking about more. I'm not going to get into the plot because the game is kind of, well, yeah, this game really didn't age well. I was like 2 years old when this game came out. Well, let's just get into it. So after the Sonic team finished the game Billy Hatcher and the Giant Egg, they began to plan the next project. Amongst the ideas the team was considering was a game with a realistic tone and advanced physics engine. When Sega reassigned the team to start working on a new game in the best-selling Sonic series, they decided to retain the realistic approach. Sonic the Hedgehog was conceived for the 6th generation consoles, but Sonic Team didn't realize, well, they did realize that its release would coincide with the series' 15th anniversary. So they decided to develop it for the 7th generation consoles, like the PS3 and the Xbox 360. Series co-creator and team lead Yuji Naka wanted the first Sonic game for 7th generation systems to reach a wide audience. Naka noted the success of superhero films such as Spider-Man 2 and Batman Begins. When Marvel or DC Comics turned their characters into films, they were thinking of them as blockbusters, huge hits, and that's what we were trying to emulate with Sonic. Development on the game began in late 2004, and the team used the same title as the original 1991 Sonic the Hedgehog to indicate that it would be a major advance from the previous games. Sources commonly describe the game as an attempted reboot of the franchise, but, yeah. Now, the name of the physics engine that the Sonic team used was the Havoc physics engine, and it was previously used in their PS2 game Astro Boy 2004, so it allowed them to create expensive levels previously impossible on earlier 6th generation consoles and experiment with multiplayer, multiple play styles. In addition, the engine also enabled Sonic Team to experiment with aspects such as global illumination, a night and day system, and giving Sonic new abilities like using ropes to leap into the air. Director Shun Nakamura demonstrated the engine during their stage shows at the Tokyo Game Show, TGS, in 2005. As the hardware of the Xbox 360 and PS3 was much more powerful compared to the prior generation consoles, the design team was able to create a more realistic setting than those of previous Sonic games. Sonic and Dr. Eggman were redesigned to better suit this updated environment. Sonic, for a good example, was made taller. He has longer quills, and Eggman is the design we kind of are, I would say, used to. They made him a bit slimmer and gave him a more realistic appearance. I think this carried over to the other Sonic games, I would say. But anyways, Nakamura and producer Mashiharu Kumo, I'm sorry if I butchered that, reason this was because the characters would be interacting with more humans and felt this would appeal to older players. And at one point, Sonic Team considered giving Sonic realistic fur and rubber textures. Yeah, that sounds horrible. While Sonic Team had major focus on the visuals, they considered their primary challenge creating a game that was as appealing as the original Sega Genesis Sonic games. They felt that Sonic Heroes and Shadow the Hedgehog, which might get a video because it's a sick game, had veered into different directions, and they wanted to return the series to its speed-based roots in new ways. For example, they wanted to include multiple paths in levels like the Genesis games had, a goal that the realistic environments helped achieve. Sonic Team sought to aggressively, quote-unquote, address problems with the virtual camera system from earlier Sonic games, about which they had received many complaints. The best thing about this game is Silver. Silver the Hedgehog's gameplay style was born out of Sonic Team's desire to take advantage of Havoc's realistic physics capabilities. The first design concept for Silver's character was an orange mink. Yeah, I can't imagine him being that. He did attain, luckily, thankfully, his final Hedgehog look after over 50 design iterations. Meanwhile, in designing Shadow's gameplay, the developers abandoned the concept of firearms that were previously used in this game in favor of combat elements to differentiate him from the other characters. You could have still given him a gun. Anyways, his gameplay was further fleshed out with the addition of vehicles. I'm glad they kept that. If there's one thing I know Shadow for, it's not only the fact that he uses a gun, it's the fact that he uses motorcycles. So, yeah, casting Keanu as the Shadow the Hedgehog was a perfect choice, guys. Each of the vehicles that were used had its own physical engine. And a fun fact, the CGI cutscenes, the really good ones, they were produced by Blur Studio. Animation supervisor Leo Santos said Blur faced challenges animating the opening scene due to the placement of Sonic's mouth. That's a bit weird. However, though, we are not going to get into the fact that as development progressed, the team faced some serious problems. So in 2006, March of 2006 specifically, Naka resigned as the head of Sonic Team to form his own company called Probe. Naka wanted to focus on original properties rather than continue making Sonic games. And with his departure, the heart and soul of Sonic was gone, according to former Sega of America CEO Tom Kalskine. Sonic the Hedgehog was originally intended for release on all major 7th generation consoles as well as Windows, but Sega was presented with development kits for Nintendo's less powerful Wii console, and Sega believed porting the game to Wii would take too long, so they conceived the Sonic game that would use the motion detection function of its controller. And so, the team was split into two. Nakamura led one team to finish Sonic the Hedgehog for Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3, while producer Yoichiro Ogawa led the others to work on Sonic and the Secret Rings for the Wii. The split left an unusual... I've never actually heard of Sonic and the rings and the Secret Rings, by the way. I might make a video about that too. Anyways, I'm getting distracted. The split left an unusually small team to stages of development, ignoring control problems and bug reports from Sega's quality assurance department. Ogawa said the final period proved to be a large challenge for the team because not only was the Xbox 360's release imminent, but the PS3's launch was scheduled not long afterwards. This put tremendous pressure on the team to develop for both systems. Producer Takashi Izuka said, "We didn't have any time to polish and we were just churning out content as quick as we could." And as you can imagine, well, obviously the game didn't do that good. I wasn't going to include this in the video originally, but hey, any excuse to make it longer, I guess. Fun for me. But the game was well received during pre-release showings, which is actually okay. Surprisingly, reception to the prior Sonic Heroes, the previous Sonic games that we got were Sonic Heroes and Shadow the Hedgehog. Those reviews were mixed. After a number of well-received showings and demos, some felt that the Sonic 06 game could be returned to the series' roots. GameSpot said that it showed a considerable amount of promise after playing a demo at E3 2006, and GameSpy praised its graphics and environments. Game Radar said that it had looked amazing before its release. And then the negative reviews came. Metacritic classified both versions' receptions as generally unfavorable. Sega reported that the game sold strongly, with 870,000 copies sold in the United States and Europe within 4 months, and the Xbox 360 version was branded under the Platinum Hits budget line. Critics were divided on the presentation. IGN called its graphics and audio decent and felt its interface and menu systems worked well, but lacked polish, but GameSpot said that the graphics, while colorful, were bland and only a small improvement from over 6th-generation games, a sentiment echoed by OneUp.com. Game Informer and Eurogamer noted several graphical glitches. We already know about those. Eurogamer also criticized the decision to continue the Sonic Adventure style of gameplay, believing that the team had learned nothing from the criticisms of the past game. Reviewers criticized the camera system, loading times, controls, level. They complain about a lot. I did not know about this. That there are a lot of complaints, and I thought the nerd was being really critical. Damn! GameSpot said that the level design was worsened by the frustrating camera system, and Game Informer criticized the high difficulty, citing the camera was as causing most deaths. I don't know why I stuttered there, but yeah, the camera was probably the reason why people died most of the time. Some reviewers were unhappy that the majority of the game was not spent playing as Sonic. GameSpot found playing as Tails boring. Poor Tails! He does not deserve this. Eurogamer found the supporting cast annoying and considered the camera system the worst they'd ever seen, and OneUp felt that despite the control and level design problems, the game still played like a Sonic game. The one thing that was criticized the most, though, I think, according to this, is the plot. The plot was criticized as confusing and inappropriately dark. That is wild to me. Games Radar considered it overwrought and conceptually challenged, and Eurogamer found its voice acting painful and its cutscenes cringe-worthy. Yeah, shit, some of that shit's cringe. Now here's the crazy thing about this review. Some reviewers unfavorably compared the story to an anime or Final Fantasy. And that's how I know some of these people did not watch Sonic X. Sonic X... We're not gonna get into Sonic X. We're just not. Like, I can understand the Final Fantasy comparison because of Princess Elise. Speaking of her, the romance between her and Sonic was especially criticized. That is nonsense to me, that she fell in love with a grown-ass hedgehog. For Games TM, it marked the point, they marked the point, they said that the Sonic series had veered off into absolute nonsense. Now, the games have always done that, but this really took the cake. I'm so glad, we got better games after this, like Sonic Unleashed. That's such a good game. GameSpot wrote that Sonic was a mess from top to bottom, that only the most blindly reverent Sonic the Hedgehog fan could possibly squeeze any enjoyment out of. IGN said that it had some redeeming qualities, though, with brief segments of gameplay that demonstrated how a next-generation Sonic game could work, but found it rips them away as soon as it shows them, and concluded that the game failed to reinvent the series. Eurogamer believed the mistakes would have been noticed, even if it had been released in, like, 96 or something. There were only, like, 2 critics that, defended the game. Game Informer and Dave Halverson of Play Magazine. Game Informer described it as ambitious and praised the graphics, story, amount of content, and replay value, but believed only Sonic fans would enjoy it. Dave Halverson initially gave the Xbox 360 version a 9.5 out of 10, praising each character's control and abilities and calling it the best 3D Sonic game yet. He should have waited for Sonic Unleashed. In the following issue, he reassessed it as an 8.5 out of 10, writing that he had been told that the load times and glitches in his review copy would not be in the final version. In a later review of the PS3 version, Dave Halverson was frustrated that the problems had still not been corrected and that the performances was worse despite the extra development time. So he gave that version of the game a 5.5 out of 10. The AV Club said in 2016 that despite the game's poor quality, the soundtrack had some genuine rippers. And you know what? I guess I'm okay with that because Shadow the Hedgehog, the game, has some bangers. I like to end this video off by reading the legacy of this game because, yeah, it's had quite the legacy. Like, you'd be shocked. I'm actually pretty shocked about how long the legacy of this is for such a shitty game. Game Trailers and Game Radar considered Sonic 06 as one of the most disappointing games of 2006. Games TM singled out the game when it ranked the Sonic franchise at the top of the list of video game franchises that lost their way. The AV Club, Kotaku, Game Informer, and US Gamer called the game the worst of this in the Sonic series, and the staff of Games Radar named it among the worst video games of all time. The game remains popular for Let's Play walkthroughs, with players showing off its glitches. In 2019, a video gained popularity in which a group of voice actors dub over the game's cutscenes in a single take, creating a nonsensical improvisational storyline about the video game culture. I think I've watched some of those videos. They're hilarious. The official Sonic Twitter account also mocks the game, which I find that to be double hilarious. Sonic 06's critical failure had a lasting effect on the franchise. Hardcore Gamer wrote that the following, that its Sonic team struggled to land on a consistent vision for Sonic, releasing game after game with wildly different concepts. In particular, Sonic Team sought to avoid its serious tone, beginning with the best game ever, Sonic Unleashed. Woo!
Woo! Yeah, baby! That's what I've been waiting for. That's what it's all about. Woo!
With Sonic Colors, the AV Club wrote that the series rediscovered its strength for whimsical tales with light tones. Sonic 06 introduced us to Silver and Princess Elise and Mephiles and Iblis to the franchise, and most have made a few appearances since. I am scared of Mephiles, but Silver is really cool. Silver is a playable character in Sonic Rivals and its sequel in Sonic Riders Zero Gravity, and he was also in the Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Winter Games, as well as its sequels. He's a minor character in the Nintendo DS version of Sonic Colors and Sonic Forces, and he also appeared in the Sonic the Hedgehog comic book series published by Archie Comics. I don't want to talk about Archie Comics. To celebrate the Sonic franchise's 20th anniversary in 2011, Sega released the game Sonic Generations, which remade aspects of past Sonic games. The PS3, Xbox 360, and Windows versions feature a remake of Sonic the Hedgehog's Crisis City level, and every version, including the 3DS and Nintendo 3DS version, includes a reimagined version of the boss battle with Silver. The decision to include the Sonic 06 stages and bosses in Sonic Generations was criticized by some critics. Can I talk today? Anywho, Jim Sterling of Destructoid referred to the Silver boss fight as the catch of the otherwise high-quality game. And in 2015, a fan group called Gistic began developing a remake for Windows using the Unity engine. A demo was released in January of 2017, and it was actually received positively by journalists. A second demo was released in late 2017, which Eurogamer called Ambitious. A second team of fans, led by Chaos X, began developing a separate PC remake in Unity, and Sonic P06 releasing multiple demos from 2019 onward. Sonic P06 is an upcoming platform game that is an unofficial remake of Sonic 06. Ooh. That's hype.
Oh, that's hot. That's hot.
I don't really got anything to say for the intro. Not intro. See, I'm tired. Outro. I don't have anything to say for the outro. You know, like, comment, and subscribe. I got videos coming tomorrow, and that's really about it. I'm gonna go watch the Lore Lodge now. I'm gonna go watch the Lore Lodge.
Purple, with the soft tissue around his knuckles a whitish gray. His right hand fingertips were dark brown with minor abrasions to the soft tissue. Right palm was bluish red in color, dark brown skin wound with jagged edges at the base of the thumb. The fourth and fifth fingers of the right hand had a cutaneous...
Triplets born, the throne awaits. A seer warns of a deadly fate. Give up your children, separate. Bide your time, lie in wait. Sonic Underground, Sonic Underground. They made a vow their mother will be found. The children grow, learn what what's right. Leaders of the freedom fight, they seek their mother, she knows they do. Is it time? If she only knew, will the prophecy come true? Sonic Underground, Sonic Underground.
I long for my children, but I have to wait. To act too soon could seal their fate.
They made a vow their mother will be found. Sonic Underground!